Hope you had a good day. It's Friday. It's always a plus, at least in most people's book. Mine was, well, I wouldn't say uneventful, but I played cards with the Golden Girls today. I do that twice a week. I always enjoy that. And then the community I live in had a little like a street fair. I went and had a couple hot dogs and some cookies and walked around a little bit, kind of limited. Had a good time. Um, Still can't get over this whole Charlie Kirk thing. And just like with anything in the news cycles nowadays, it just gets so spun out. You don't know where to go. You don't know what to believe. You don't know what's fact. You don't know what's fiction. And I keep searching for like, what do we do and what do we do next? Where do we go next? What's like the next move? And everything that keeps coming back to my mind is we have to change the rules. And I've said that to a couple people, and I don't think they understand what I mean. I don't mean violence. I don't advocate for that at all, in any shape. I believe in protecting yourself, but I certainly don't now, nor do I ever intend on like applying violence. I don't think that's the answer. I don't. Unfortunately, it probably is the answer, but I certainly don't want to advocate for that. But it's crazy. It's crazy what we're doing, and it's crazy how a lot of people react, and that by any stretch, I don't think, I don't think assassination is the key to anything. But a little bit early. It's all right. I'd rather be early than late. See somebody joined. How you doing? Um, so yeah, kind of like my last video, my last stream, trying to like search for the answers on what we do next. Um, I don't know, but like I keep saying, the rules have to change. We have to look at, if we don't change, nothing changes. When I say we, I mean individually. We all have to change a little bit, and I think like we have to adjust our boundaries. Um, I'm not saying war. I'm not saying battle, but how you doing? We have to change our boundaries, and our boundaries, um, our personal boundaries, not necessarily physical boundaries, but our personal boundaries have to change. We have to look at things different. We can't necessarily like assume that everybody's good and everything's good, because there's a lot of bad out there, and it seems to be that when you sit down with dialogue, like we can't I can't say all, but like a lot of us try to do, we like to have dialogue about what's going on. And if you there's certain boundaries that if you step across them, you know, somebody attempt to attempt on your life, or take your life, and it's about dialogue, and it's uncomfortable. And those that don't know me, I like the uncomfortable conversations. I like getting into the muck of things, because that's where the answers are at. The answers aren't tiptoeing around the edges. They're actually getting in up to here and figuring out what's going on. And I don't think it's fair to let everybody else try to figure out what's going on while we live our lives, and act like nothing's happened and nothing's going on. Our world changed, and I don't care what side of the fence you're on. I don't care what your politics are. things like what happened Wednesday, when that takes place, our worlds change. And, rightfully so. I said it before. I don't want to take the. I don't want to take the whole night and talk about Charlie Kirk. He deserves it. He deserves all our attention. But I also think that all of our feeds and all of our emotions and all of our thoughts are saturated with the atrocity that happened to Charlie Kirk and his family, and we kind of got to get out of that a little bit. So that's part of the question of like, where do we go? What do we do next? We act like it doesn't happen. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I like to talk about the muck of things. I like to get into serious, uncomfortable conversations. Um, because, like I said, I think that's where the answers are found. So, if you're watching, if you're listening, chime in. Let's talk about some things. I'm happy to. Um, I don't know. There's just a lot of crap that goes on. I talked some about yesterday, and I've got a couple different places I talk about stuff. So if I'm doubling up, if I'm talking twice to myself, then or saying repeating things, I apologize. um, but the media is crazy, and there's so many outlets now that it's hard to believe anything. Um, just like it's hard to believe everything. You can't believe everything, but opposite sides of the coin. You can't believe all of it. You can't believe none of it. You just got to kind of sort it out. Um, I find it really hard to believe that some young kid, and that's what I say, some young kid. How you doing, rodeo gal? Glad you made it. Chime in if you've got anything to say. Don't be shy. But I find it hard to believe that a young man at 22 years old was able to shimmy up the roof with a rifle. And I saw a video where it looked like he had the rifle stuffed down his leg and he was walking with a stiff leg through this community. And how does that happen? Like how does a young kid get away with that and take a shot at say 200 yards, whatever it might have been? Um, I practiced my Second Amendment, and a 200 yard shot is a pretty good shot. I'm not a hunter, and yeah, it is crazy. The whole world's crazy, though. I mean, oh, except for me. Naturally, I'm not crazy. The whole freaking world is crazy. But for some young guy to get on a roof, take a shot at a prominent individual, whether you agreed with him or not, he had a lot of popularity, and then jump off the roof and go away. And yeah, sure, they caught him. At least they say they caught him. But if you're like me, I'm skeptical about everything. I'm skeptical about that chalkboard back there. Is it going to fall on my head? It's not paranoid. I'm just, curious, like, what's happening? But please, if you're watching, there's 5 people in here right now. So if you're watching, you want to talk about something different, you want me to talk about something different, give me some ideas, because my brain is just saturated with, what's been going on in the news feeds the last couple of days. Um, try to find something. Well, I've entertained that, rodeo gal. I've entertained that question right there. And so many shooters and rapists, like, what possessed them to do that? And my true answer, and I hope I can relay this the right way, my true answer is the second you understand that is the second you have to be worried about who you are, because that means you either are one or capable of one. And I don't understand it either. I can ask that same question. I don't understand. And I'm thankful for that, because the second that I understand that that's okay, that makes me dangerous, because then I can justify doing that. So kudos and congratulations on feeling that and asking that question. And I hope sincerely trying to get an answer. And the answer is you don't want to understand it, because once you understand it, you are. And it's not just this instance, other instances I've thought, like, what possessed some of these people John Wayne Gacy or Jeffrey Dahmer or any of them. What possesses them to do that? And I don't advocate it for all, but there's times where like enraged somebody does something, and and it's like their temper, their their temper, their anger gets them to do things. But the ones that calmly do it, that's what I really don't understand, because like it's a thought process. It's things that people think about and like premeditate and then go execute it. And like, what are you doing? And I've done some things, nothing to that effect by any stretch, not even close. But like, I've asked myself before, like, dude, what are you doing? So something is major as like what we're talking about. Surely they have to ask themselves, like, dude, what are you doing? But then you also have to question mental capabilities and that sort of thing. Like, is it drug induced? And then let me put my tinfoil hat on here for a minute. Is it like cell signals that are doing it? Is it these antidepressant drugs? Um, I don't see how they do it calmly. I don't mean to get off, but I want to answer as many of the questions and people that reply. you know, I'm unscripted. I'm just talking like I shoot from the hips when I'm doing these live streams, and I try to answer because I want the involvement from somebody else. Anybody can sit here and just ramble on about their own ideas. I like the input. So Rodeo Gal says, like some people just do things calmly, and it isn't something that you should be doing calm. You shouldn't be doing it at all, first and foremost. But like, I'm not a hunter. I know hunters. I've talked to them. My family, my friends, a lot of them hunt. And there's a thing that's called buck fever. I've never felt it, but it's been explained to me. Um, as a matter of fact, it was explained to me by a 79-year-old man today. Um, buck fever, and that's not anything calm. It's something that it takes a lot of ability to be able to control that. And that's when you're looking at an animal, and I love animals. The older I get, and trust me, I'm getting older. You can see by the chrome in my beard. Definitely getting older, and the older I get, the more I feel like animal. The older I've gotten, I feel like animals have emotions. I have a couple. I wouldn't trade them for anything. And to look down a rifle at an animal versus look down a rifle at a human being, I honestly can't even fathom. I can't even. It doesn't even. I can't even understand it. So um, I don't think there's anything calm about that. I think, and that's where I start bringing in like, is there drugs? Is there like radio waves, or like there's so many things that we don't even know about that we don't. I'll give you another example. I was trying to explain to my dad, 79-year-old man. I was trying to explain to him what AI is, and he just can't get over. At least it doesn't seem like he can get over the fact that you have a computer that you're putting stuff in, and it's like somebody has to program the computer to be able to answer you, and he doesn't understand that AI is artificial intelligence, and that there isn't somebody on the other end inputting. So when you ask AI a question, in his mind, at least the way I believe it is, in his mind, there's somebody someplace else that's entered into the computer the answer to the question that you just asked. And AI is not like that, not at all. I've messed around with it, and there's parts that give me chills because of the stuff that it knows or the stuff it can find out. And it's kind of weird. It's kind of freaky. But the point is it's people get set in a certain way, and it's hard to get them out of that. And it's like, even if they want to get out of that certain way, they just can't. And that's what I've been saying the last several days is the way we combat what's going on is we change the rules. We can honestly say, and I'll say the left because I don't even know who it is. I can't say it's like one person. I don't believe a 22-year-old kid was able to do what he did no more than I believe that, you know, 19-year-old kid in Pennsylvania was able to do what he did last year to our current president. So what's going on? Any ideas? Anybody else got any ideas? Like, what's going on? Is it the CIA? Is it the FBI? Is it Israel? Is it Saudi Arabia? Who or what's got this stuff going on? And how can so many people be accepting to like what's being fed? Oh look, there's a guy on a building. Look, we caught him. We caught a guy in a black shirt. We got him. And there's too much chance. There's too much luck. So I overthink things. So try to bear with me here. If what took place in Pennsylvania with our current president last year, and he was able to get a shot off. So if just the fact that he got the shot off makes him successful, and then what took place Wednesday, he got the shot off and was technically successful. Why are all these attemptees and assassins? Why are they successful? Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good. I got this. I'm learning to live with it. It's been 2 years now, but I'm okay. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you saying so. But where I was going with this is if you have, and I just named two, and I understand with the current president, they foiled one at the golf course, but you would think that there would have to be dozens and dozens of failures, that people that got caught with rifles in their pant leg or got caught climbing up on the roof, that didn't make it to the point of the shot. And I've never heard of any. I have literally never heard of any other than the second attempt on the president's life. And you would think, like I said, especially with all these young kids, you would think that there would be unsuccessful ones. So it makes me question, how are these guys being successful at getting off the shot? If there's no like there's too much luck involved, too much circumstance, too much luck. He's able to get the shot off, run across the roof, jump down, run across the street, go into the woods, hide the rifle, make his getaway. How many times would there be that someone would be able to execute a whole plan to get away? And you would think that there would be, like I said, dozens that wouldn't make it. There's dozens that wouldn't make it up the stairs, dozens that wouldn't make it through the neighborhood with a rifle in their leg, stuffed down their pant leg. That's what it looked like to me. And I think it's funny how there were two people. I seen a video of one that was in the crowd, and he said he was guilty. So the authorities said, we caught him. And that allowed other law enforcement and security to relax because it was put into their head that they got him. So once again, I don't have the answers. I don't understand things. There are things that are far-fetched, like, Charlie's ring changed fingers. I don't know how that shit happens, man. I mean, you would think with today's planning that goes into stuff like that, you would think that, they'd be able to figure that stuff out. So, the stuff they're able to figure out, I think the details like that are just like, it doesn't make any sense to me how they could go throughout this whole plan and then miss out these little details with as sophisticated as all the planning and stuff is nowadays. So it leads me once again, put my tinfoil hat on. It makes me start thinking that all these things are injected in there to create more confusion. I can't get over the fact of like the news media and stuff is like, oh, we got him, we finally got him, and I just don't get it. I don't get it. Old boy was able to do what he did, and then just go home or go back to his dorm room and just chill out. And I read where he was trying to, on Discord, he was trying to come up with a plan on how he could get back to the scene to get the rifle. Seriously, I mean, like, I I don't know, like a 10-year-old could do better. Like, really, like a planned. I don't. Once again, I don't get it. And so are we being planted all these things in our head because we're simpletons? So we believe that stuff because we want to. Um, Let me get off course with that a little bit. There's where I live in the Midwest, not far. I think it's probably an hour and a half drive from where I'm at. I think 3 years ago, there were two young girls. They were young teens that were found murdered on a walking trail. It's called the Delphi murders. Go ahead and look it up. Feel free to. Um, they they went 2 years and didn't catch anybody, and the whole community was like in this uproar because they wanted to get somebody. They wanted to get somebody. They had to catch who did this to these poor girls. And lo and behold, they got this guy. They caught him. And then they came out and they pranced him out all over in front of everybody and says, "We caught the Delphi murder guy." And I've dove into the case a little bit. I've known other people close to me that really dove into it. And I don't think they caught the right guy. I don't think they have the right guy. But everybody feels better because they've got the guy that did this terrible thing to these girls. Even though it's wrong. Even though I believe this guy was railroaded into he's accused of. Um, a lot of people feel better because there's somebody in jail for what happened. It doesn't have to be the right guy, and I think that could be playing the case here. Um, you know, the powers that be had time to come up with video and put a story together, and you better believe they're sophisticated at story building. So they put a story together, they built the story, and then they came out with the facts. And I think a lot of things are being made up, like, hey ho, hey, how's it going, buddy? I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing real good. Had a rough patch last week. It's kind of funny with what I'm dealing with. I had a real good week the week before. Last week, man, I got this cough and I couldn't get rid of it. And sometimes I cough for 20 or 30 minutes. And went to the doctor on Tuesday. Or I'm sorry, on Monday. I think it was Monday or Tuesday maybe. They put me on hate taking meds, but they put me on some more meds, and because I was feeling rough, I went ahead and took them, and here I am Friday, and I feel pretty good. Got my breath back, still losing a little bit, but the cough's gone, at least most of it. I still have these little cough drops that I suck on every now and then, especially since I've been talking a lot. That's good. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time to stop in and say hi. It has been a while. How have you been doing? Go ahead and type in there. Let me know how you've been doing too. I'm curious about that. Excuse me. But yeah, there's a lot of things that go on that don't make sense, and I think we're too quick to put a face on what's been going on, especially tragedies. So we're all like looking for instances, and kind of got a little bit off of course there. But I hope I hope that that's not the case here. I hope the case is that I hope they really caught the guy. But it seems like to me that given it's on a college campus, given the group of people, the mass amounts of people, yeah, there's a lot going on. It's just not on YouTube. It's all over the place, bro. Like I can't. I watch YouTube all the time. You've heard me say I'm a professional YouTube watcher, and I've had to kind of go off what I normally do just to get away. And I was watching some travel videos because everything was about this tragedy, and I'm sure everybody else is this way, but like I just get like my head just swells with all this information, and sometimes I just need to like decompress a little bit. And a lot of times I play my Xbox a little bit, and that kind of takes up all my senses to play that. So, and that's a form of like of like deflating, but because of violent tones or whatever, that just wasn't doing it for me either. So keep working your rear end off, because one day may come, trust me, where you can't work your rear end off, and then you kind of miss it. You miss the going to work and getting a paycheck, and you miss the getting up in the morning. And I'm a little over 2 years of not working, and I miss not working. Um, I have a hard time doing normal things, let alone working. So it's not even on the map, the GPS to go back to work. So maybe it's easy for me to say I miss it. I know my boss. Hi, Adrian. Glad you stopped in. Appreciate it. But I know my boss. She gets up and goes to work every day. I wish she didn't have to, but I think when the day comes when she doesn't have to, I think she'll miss it. I call her my boss. She's my best half, that's for sure. So let me take a drink, wet my whistle real quick. So I hope everybody else is doing okay. Hey ho, glad that, like I said, you're able to get up and work your rear end off. That's a good thing. Taking care of yourself and possibly a family, that's a good thing too. Adrian, hi. I don't need any money, bud. I don't. I'm doing okay with money. Um, you're only 12, so enjoy it, because you get old fast. Trust me. Yeah, I agree, a-hole. I agree. Yep, yep. And sometimes some people. My mom is 78 years old, and she goes to work every day, and she likes it, and she doesn't get to sit back and relax too much. Um, and she probably lived her whole life thinking, when I get 65, I'm not going to do nothing, but she still goes to work every day. But let me give you my opinion in case you wasn't listening earlier, a-hole. Um, you're exactly 100% correct. People are going on, and instead of making it simple, a good man died because evil is allowed to exist. And that's really tough. And I think about this a lot, because I'll give you an example. Um, I'm Second Amendment, and because of the Second Amendment, I'm also First Amendment. So right off the bat, freedom of speech is everything in this country. But I've learned this. If you watch the video where they were having a candlelight vigil, I think it was last night. It could have been Wednesday night, but they were having a vigil, and one guy on a bike came rolling in, and he was saying F Charlie Kirk, and he ended up getting whooped. They got knocked off his bike and got knocked down, and then he stood up and was crying about First Amendment. And I think the rules have to change. And what I mean by that is I'm not about any kind of violence, but I'll tell you what, that guy got less than what he deserved, because when you go into something like that, you can't. How do I want to say it? Like it's not. You can't do that. And when I say you can't do that, the law says that you can. Morally and ethically, you shouldn't do it. And if you don't have enough morals and ethics to stay away from something like that with your opinion, then you get what you get. Now, had he been 5 blocks away, 6 blocks away, and shouting that out, number one, he wouldn't have got jerked off his bike. Number two, I would have defended him more because of his First Amendment right of freedom of speech, to be able to allow to say what he wants to say when he wants to say it. But where we have to change the rules a little bit is that, I say like the belly of the beast, or you go to the lion's den, but it's even worse than that. Um, when I say worse than that, I guess it's not the same situation, because when you go to a man's home and you act a certain way, you get what you get. When you go to a prayer vigil over the loss of life, and the people that respected and looked up to that life, you you have to have respect. And if you don't, you get jerked off your bike, and you get your ass beat, and you get sent on your way. And I don't think the cops should be there to defend it. Certainly nobody needs to lose their life, and injury should be limited for sure. Ciao, san mai, ciao. And so that's kind of like my opinion on that. And I'll give you another example. Like I said, I'm pro Second Amendment. I'm all about it. I'm all about it. Our Constitution, it allows Americans the right to bear arms, and you can't fix stupid. Question is, if you can't fix it, what do you do with it? It's a good question, but I don't know. I mean, and you have to understand. I love that. I love the dialogue, bro. I do. I appreciate it. You have to understand what's hard for me is I fix things. I've fixed things my whole life, and I always have a solution to fix something. So if I come to you and I say, "Hey, this is messed up, but I think you can do this to make it better," it's really, really difficult for me because I know something's screwed up and I don't have the answer. The only answer I have is let me reread this. It says, "You can't fix stupid. Question is, if you can't fix it, what do you do with it?" And my only response to that, as of now, and this is after a lot of thought, this isn't just, you know, shooting from the hip kind of thing, is you change the rules with how you deal with stupid. You change the freaking rules. We can't draw boxes around ourselves and say, you know, I'm not going to do this because I'm a more superb person. Because the people that don't care, the people that are trying to get at you, they don't go by rules. They don't they don't abide by your set rules. And there's certain things that I can say I won't do, but don't put me in a position because I don't know what I'm capable of either. And we all need to act that way. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I hope it's making sense because I do put a lot of thought into this stuff. Um, I'm an overthinker. That's how it's that's why I like going unscripted. That's why I like, you know, I write a couple things down nowadays because A, I'm getting older, and B, because I want to make sure I touch base on things. Um, I wrote a couple of things down earlier and I left it out by my chair by the TV. Didn't want to go get it because it's just more effort than it's worth. So, like I said, I like the shooting from the hip. I like the unscripted part of it. I like the natural part of it. I like to be able to have dialogue with whomever's on here, going back and forth. I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. There's a Chinese, I think it's a Chinese proverb, and it's called "Death of a Thousand Cuts." And we've allowed so many small cuts that we're starting to bleed. And um, you know, we're looking around like, "Hey, why am I bleeding?" Well, it's all these little bitty cuts. And you're exactly right. We have to deal with it differently, which is why I say we have to change the rules. Now, there's there's another thing, and it had to do with it had to do with the Soviets. I think I don't know. It had to do with another country, and I read this, and I'm trying to I'm 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 wording it the way I understood it, but it's like you get a neighbor, and and you have your property line set out, and he puts a fence up, and you go out and you get looking, and you're like, "Hey, this guy's 2 inches over onto my property," and your wife comes out and says, "Well, you know, come on, man. It's only 2 inches. What do you? It's less grass you're going to have to mow. It's only 2 inches. It's not like it's the whole yard." So you say, "Okay, I'll let you know. No big deal. It's just 2 inches." And then you come out a week later and you realize the fence been moved over 2 inches. And you're like, "Hey, man, it's 2 inches now. Why are you moving the fence 2 inches?" And your wife or somebody, your other neighbor comes out and says, "Hey, man, it's only 2 inches, dude. Like, what does it matter to you? It's just 2 inches." So then a week or two goes by, and finally you look out and you see your neighbor, he's moving his fence over 2 inches, and you go out and you say, hey, you're not moving your fence. You've already taken, 4 inches. You're not moving your fence again. And the neighbor says, "Okay, back up, man. I won't take another 2 inches." But he's already gotten four. And that's kind of where we're at right now, is like we've let the evil powers take an inch or take a half an inch or take a little bit here and a little bit there, because we're caring people, and we don't we don't want to upset too many people, and it's just like live and let live. And then we turn around and look behind us, and there's a freaking mile behind us, and we got to make that up somehow. And I think that's what's taking place here. Is, let me go off on this little rant. I'm probably going to piss some people off, but like the pink hairs, the blue hairs, the trans, these radical people, we've tolerated and we've tolerated and we've tolerated and we've tolerated. And now we tolerate them writing things on bullets and taking shots at people. The school in I think it was Minnesota, the freak scribbled things out on bullets that he was shooting. Just what happened in Wednesday, things engraved on bullets. It's like these things are out there, but we don't want to be homophobes. We don't want to be racist. I haven't spoke about that very much. That Ukrainian girl that died from getting her throat cut on a train by a black guy, and it's just like that's okay. Yeah, not only will he ask for a glass of milk, but he'll demand that you give him another cookie, and that's kind of where we're at. Um, and I'm not by any means throwing race into it, because I am not a racist person at all. And I'm sure everybody says that. I can go into why I've proven to myself I'm not. But we can't deny the fact that a black criminal cut the throat of a white immigrant. And if you word it any other way than that, then you're a fool. And that's how we've gotten where we've gotten, is we allow things to happen, and then we're tamped back, and we're like, no, 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 we don't want to say nothing to upset anybody. And the person that you're trying not to upset inches their way forward. And then you turn around and they're right there, and you're like, no, 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 I don't want to upset nobody. So you take a step forward, and it's like at a concert. You know, you hold your ground and you're standing there. I've been to some pretty crazy concerts, and you get pushed on the back and pushed on the back and pushed on the back. So you move forward so you're not getting pushed on the back. And the next thing you know, you're getting pushed on the back. And then the next thing you know, you're pushed up in front of the guy in front of you. And it's like, you can't stop, you can't stop, you can't stop. And that's kind of where we're at, is like, it just doesn't stop. And that's where I say, and I mean it when I say this, we have got to change the rules that we're playing by. We have to move the goalposts, whether it's forward, backward, right to left. We have to change the rules. The rules are going to have to change in order for anything to change. And when I say the rules, I don't mean the laws. So don't construe it into me saying, oh, we got to change the laws. That could be part of it. But individually, we have to change the rules. We have to think about the tolerance that we have. Is the tolerance that we have, is it deserving? Um, I'll say, like, I've known some homosexual people in my life, and in a non-homosexual way, I loved them. I cared about them. I still do. But even in the instance that's in my mind right now, they used their sexual orientation against me. And I know the truth. I can tell the story. I'm not going to bore everybody. But still, currently, it was like 30 years ago, 25 or 30 years ago. And it's still, this guy's convinced himself that's what happened, because that way he can walk away and be like, I didn't do anything. It's because I'm who I am, when it was his actions, not who he was. It was his actions. Anyway, it's not a long story, but it's totally irrelevant. We have to change the rules. And it's not, a lot of people's not going to be happy, um, because the rules are going to push back on them. And once again, when I say change the rules, we individually have to change the rules. Something I've had recently had debates about. Yeah, what victim card? What victim card? We're all victims. We all make choices. I worked with a guy one time that he spent 10 years in prison, and he was like, he got a job where I was at, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And I befriended the guy, and we were talking, and he said, it's hard, man. I've been trying to get a job, and this job paid good money. And he's like, I've been trying to get a job and nobody hired me because I got a record. I've done some prison time and now nobody wants to hire me. And I'm like, well, dude, I said, we're about the same age. We've operated and messed around in about the same circles, not exactly. I made choices and you made choices. You made choices that put you in jail. I didn't. I made the other choice. While you've been in jail, I've been working, I've been trying to get my life going. Why should we be treated the same? And he said, well, because I paid my debt to society. I never had a debt to society. So, like, what do I get for staying out of prison? I fill out the same job application as you. We're literally working the same job, same company. You did 10 years in prison. I didn't. What do I get? Why don't I get some kind of benefit for staying out of jail when these people think they should get a benefit for being into jail? No, I think he should have had to deliver pizzas for a while. I think he should have had to work for minimum wage for a while. I did. But anyway, yeah, victim card. That's what it comes down to. Your victim status comes down to your choices. You know, you said you've been working your tail off. You can choose not to. You can throw the victim card if you got, probably like me. I'm assuming you're like me. You got some pride, and if you have to swallow that pride a little bit, but hey, you can stay home. You can make that choice. I watch a thing. Been watching a lot of stuff about Trump taking away the EBT cards from people, especially in the inner cities. And this lady was like, "I can't go to work. I got kids." And I'm thinking, shit, I had kids when I was young too. Why? Because we had the kid. I only had one. We had the kid we had to pay for. And I think like a lot of these people, I think they did so poor in school that they don't understand that like the government pays for stuff because people pay the government. And I guess that'd be a good topic to go off of is like, why is it hard for the government to understand they exist because we pay taxes and because we, the people, allow them to exist? But I can say this, like, and I can say this as a matter of fact, that anything that grows and gets big gets corrupt. And when it gets corrupt, a good example for me is the union. There was a time and a place where the union had to happen. Workers needed it. They needed it for their safety. They needed it for their incomes. They they needed it for protection against the companies whom they worked for. And the union was a great thing. But let's go 5, 6 decades later, it's spun out of control. It's a huge drain on the society that we have, but they're ingrained and they're there. And you can't just quit. You have to be, not you don't have to be, but there's a lot of jobs. In order to have jobs, you have to be in the union. And I think you know like building bridges across highways done by a union company cost you $4 or $5 million. Done by an independent contractor, same job. You just don't have people that don't work show up, and you can do it for half the price. Same materials, half the price. Now there's a guy I know that he's a skilled tradesman, and he goes sit in his truck because somebody needs to dig a hole out with a shovel, and he's not a laborer, so he ain't doing it. Yeah, that's true. The job I had before I got sick um, was a non-union job, and I made really good money doing it. And I don't know, it was in the RV industry in northern Indiana, capital of RVs. And I don't know how the union stayed out of that because there's so much money involved. What's up? What's up, Terry, my man? I was hoping you'd show up. I don't know if you're driving or not. So if you're not, chime in here, man. I want your opinion on what I'm talking about. So good to see you. If you're driving, I hope you like what you're hearing. Um, you are driving. Okay, well, keep listening if you want to. Been going on the last couple of days has got me kind of like spun out here. I'm getting pretty amped up. I'm trying to get. I've got a friend that's on on this platform and on another, and we're trying to get together to do some like collaboration stuff because I do real well when we can have a rapport. It's hard for me to it's hard for me to rain down my thoughts and my opinions when I'm sitting here by myself. So you guys chiming in the way that you do, I really appreciate it because it keeps, I've already been going for 45 minutes and it like keeps everything going where I feel like when I don't have that, I kind of ramble on and on and on. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to, I want to keep what little content I have. I'm no expert by any stretch, but I want to keep it interesting. I'd like it to grow. By the way, I'm at 207 subscribers, so thank you guys very much. If you're listening, if you watch this video and you haven't subscribed, please do. It's free. I promise I won't come peek in your windows and pound on your door and say, subscribe, subscribe. I won't have them send you a W-2. You don't have to pay anything. All I got to do is just push the subscribe button, and I appreciate it. It makes me feel good. You know, I don't make any money at this. I won't ever make any money at this. I know that. Um, it's just a good feeling. Gives me something to do. I'm disabled, so I sit around and watch YouTube, watch videos, and this gives me something to do, something to look forward to. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the subscribing. I appreciate the listening. But a-hole, chime in. What else you want to talk about, buddy? I like what you've been saying. He says unions chew up and spit kids out these days. They do. They spit anybody out. There's people that have a job because of the union. And when I say a job, I don't mean like they're driving a truck job. They're like a union steward that's getting paid. And then unfortunately, and it hasn't happened that I know of recently, but when they go on strike, these pricks still make their check. So it's like whether you're on strike or not, it doesn't matter to them. They're still making money. But my whole point on bringing the unions up is that when something grows that big, it gets so corrupt and spun out that the only thing you can do is burn it to the goddamn ground and start all over again. And when I say start all over again, unions as an example, burn it to the ground. If it's needed, get it going again. And, I think it's unfortunate that I say this, but I think like our government needs to be burnt to the ground. And as a Gen Xer, I think a lot of Gen Xers would agree. It needs to be tore down. It needs to be tore down. And then you have to worry about, and I've had this discussion, but then you have to worry about the vacuum it creates. And when I say burn it down, I mean eliminate or put the stop gaps in so that you don't have a vacuum, because you can't. Who steps in? Well, it's so large, and I think our current president's proven this. It's so large and out of control that you can remove thousands of people and never miss a beat. It still functioned just fine. And I think he could go even further. And I heard him say one time, and this was, I think, his last presidency, but and I say we, it's a little different now because I don't go to work, but people that go to work, they could be wealthy. Like I know there's people out there that are doing okay, and they're actually doing better than okay. They're doing pretty good, but you work your asses off, and there's nothing wrong with that. But can you afford a vacation house? Can you afford your wife to stay home? Can you afford to put your kids through school? And that's a struggle for a lot of people. It's a struggle, and our government's, I think, unfortunately, spun out. Man, it's spun out. It's corrupt. They they make rules for us and then make rules for them. And then let's bring it down from, when I say the government, let's bring it down to the local levels with the law enforcement. Um, I am not a fan of police. I am pro law enforcement. We have to have cops. I accept that. I understand it, but I'm not a fan of police. But the reason is the is the corruption that is allowed and the blue line gang. I believe in that 100%. Um, I've watched enough. I'm stuck to this hose. I'm stuck at home, so I can't say I've lived it. But I can promise you, I've spent hours of of my time watching videos, body cam videos, court videos, um, people's recorded videos, unedited. And most of these cops are abusive. When I say abusive, some of them are physically abusive. A lot of them are physically abusive. A lot of them, the majority of them, are law abusive, and they travel and they work under immunity, and it just doesn't seem right to me that on the surface a cop can lie to you, and it's illegal for you to lie to him. He can lie to you to get you to admit to crimes that you didn't commit. And if you try to lie your way out of it, you can be prosecuted for that. Um, it doesn't. There's things that happen that we've just accepted. One thing is we've accepted that cops say, no matter what, I'm going home tonight, because turnabout's fair play. And what that means is that means they will kill you so they can go home tonight. So be careful with your cell phones, because if they perceive it as a weapon, they can literally kill you and then go home. So they don't when they're in their squad cars and they're driving around, they don't have to follow the same rules that you do. They can speed, they can change lanes, they can do U-turns, they can go opposite in traffic, and it's all they travel under immunity. So go ahead and look up what a sovereign citizen is, and you want to know what one is? It's the police force. The police force are sovereign citizens, especially when they're on duty. Another good one that I've heard so many times, and I just laugh, is we've investigated ourselves and we found that we've done nothing wrong. And that's just comical to me, like way comical. So you have federal government, you have local governments that are corrupt. Even school boards are corrupt. So you got to start somewhere. And I don't have the answers. I don't know. I don't know what the answers are. I wish I did. Um, but I think that the rules have to change. What took place Wednesday is a shame, beyond shame. It's awful. It's terrible. It's a sin. It's a sin that we all have to live through, that we all have to witness. It's a sin that they live streamed it, which I don't think was accidental. I think it was purposely done that way. Um, it's no different than back in the old days and Western days, at least as far as I know. They used to do public hangings so that everybody could witness it. They used to do, I think, in other countries, they used to do like public stonings, so that when other people seen it, they were like, man, you know, like like uh, where is it at in the Middle East, someplace where you get caught stealing, they cut your hand off, so that everybody knows the rest of your life that you were a goddamn thief, so that the next person comes along and says, man, I like my hands. I don't want to be known as a thief my whole life. I'm not stealing nothing. And that's just an example. I think another answer, along with changing the rules, but this would be part of changing the rules, is forcing accountability on anyone. I don't care if you're a cop. If you do something that you shouldn't have done and you kill somebody, you go to jail. I don't care if you're a politician. You get caught doing stuff that you shouldn't, you go to jail. You get prosecuted. You get stripped of your title, and you face a judge, and you face a jury of people that don't know your Congress or don't know that you're senator. They just know you as a person that screwed up. And the bigger you screw up, the bigger of a problem it is. And that would solve a lot. I think it would solve a lot. You know, like I said, in other countries, they cut your damn hand off if you're a thief. And that, I'm sure that keeps a lot of people from being thieves. I've seen, like, I don't know why this comes to mind, but like in Dubai, um, they this young influencer went over there and he had this watch that was worth like 50 grand, and he set it down on a table and was videotaping, and people were just walking by it. They walk by and look at it, notice it, and keep on going. And I think that's because if he got caught stealing that watch, there'd be hell to pay. Nowadays, you smash and grab. You can smash and grab a whole street full of storefronts, and they're like, well, it's going on in Chicago, so it's not hyperbole. It's not a story I'm making up. The mayor says, well, it's homelessness. We need affordable housing. That's why these animals are doing that. What a joke, man. What a freaking joke. They're not smashing and grabbing the grocery store. They're smashing and grabbing Gucci and, was it Versace and all this cool stuff that nobody that I know can afford nor wants to afford it, I guess. But I think the point is these people will they'll do that. They'll get caught, and then what is it called? No cash bail. So they'll be out. And I had a conversation recently with somebody that said that, and I know this happens, so it's just kind of brought to light, but a lot of big cities will, they'll say there's X amount of black people, X amount of white people. So the jail should reflect that. And they leave out of the equation who's committing the crimes. Because I don't care who's in jail, as long as they're guilty, as long as they're criminals. I don't give a shit what color they are. I don't care what language they speak. If they're committing crimes, they belong in jail. And there shouldn't be some scribe sitting there saying, how many are this color and how many speak this language and how many, it shouldn't even matter. It should be one certain list. You're guilty or you're not. You're in jail or you're not. And that just seems too simple. I don't know why it has to be like fractioned down so much that you think you can control the answer when the answer remains the same. And I'm not trying to get on a black and white thing. That's just an example. If more black people are committing crimes, there should be more people in jail. You can't leave that out of the equation, period. No matter what your population is. If you live in a retirement community like I do, and you have a jail, I'm the youngest one on the whole property, I think, other than the employees. So rightfully so, there would be more old people in jail because there isn't any young people that live here. But if you have to have the numbers match, then I'd be locked up because I'm the only one. And that's just like, I don't know if that makes any sense, kind of getting off on a little bit of a rant. So I apologize. But I guess that's my point. Kind of go backwards a little bit. Like to say again, it's a travesty what took place with Charlie. I got him on my screen right here. I keep looking at him. And I didn't agree with everything he said. I agreed with a lot of what he said, but I really respected the guy, and it breaks my heart. And I was sad. I'm still sad because he was the best when it came to discussions. He could recall more things than anybody I've ever watched. And as far as a professional is concerned, I'm sure he was a great guy. Personally, I'm sure he was a great father. I'm sure he was a great husband. But on a professional level, what I will always respect from Charlie and his like, I can't say speeches or whatever, but when he was on college campuses, is he always gave a golden ticket to somebody that wanted to argue with him, that didn't agree with him. There would be a line of dozens of people that wanted to come up and praise him and tell him what a good job he was doing. And if one person stepped up and said, I disagree with you, Charlie, he would spread the crowd and they would get a first-class Willy Wonka golden ticket right to the front line. And You got to respect that out of the guy, because he would, like me, I like talking about the difficult topics. I like trying to answer the difficult questions, the ones that, you get mud on your hands and people get nervous and uncomfortable talking about. I like that kind of stuff because that's where the answers are. The answers aren't tiptoeing around. It's getting up to your nose and the crap that is where that's where you find the answers. And and I like asking the difficult questions. I like asking questions that make people uncomfortable, because just turnabout is that's where you get the real answers at, when you ask the difficult questions. We all love people, um, until we start asking, do you love evil people? And they're like, well, no, no. So you don't love all people? Well, I don't want to sound like I'm a terrible person. So yeah, I love all people. So you love like child molesters and people that hurt children? No, no, not that. So like, and I've done it before. Um, I ask questions like that, and it upsets people, and it's not funny, comical, but it's just like the irony behind, you tell yourself something so long you start to believe it. And I think as like a free American society, that's what we've done, is we've told ourselves that we're the greatest and that we're untouchable. And now we're starting to get touched. We're starting to get touched from the inside. Like it was, I don't know if it was Saul Alinsky, it was somebody that said, we're going to be chewed up and spit out from the inside. It's not going to come from the outside. We're going to fall from the inside. And now it's starting to happen because these kids are able to slither onto buildings and lay prone and take pot shots at our pillars and our leaders and the people that we look up to. Not only that, they stream it on live so that everybody gets to see it, and it burns an image into the people that are talking the truth. Um, so hopefully, and I've seen this, I've read this a couple different times in a couple different places, but hopefully, this is like a this is like a Charlie Kirk revolution, where where people aren't going to stand for it anymore. And like I said, I don't. When I say stand for, I don't mean violence. I don't mean like going and rooting people out. I don't mean like arming yourself and going out and taking care of the problem. That's not at all what I'm saying. But I'm saying if the neighbor wants an inch, you kick him in the teeth and tell him no. He's not taking an inch. If he's not careful, you'll take an inch from him. And I mean, and that sounds harsh, but that's like what needs to be said. Um, I'm not about fearing people, so like I don't want to. I don't want it to sound like you threaten them and you threaten them to beat their asses so they'll do what you say. That's not what I mean at all. But what I mean is, it's like, don't think you're going to come at me and I'm going to take a step backward, because you're going to have to either run me over or deal with the consequence. And I think too many times people don't want the conflict, so they step aside, and then there they go. We're at a point where you can't step aside no more. Or a point where you got to dig in. You got to dig in or let them be. And yep, I just read this from 12 hours ago. Hope you're still listening, Terry. But when George Floyd died, they burned down cities. We ain't burning no buildings. We're not the same. And I agree with that 100%. Yeah, the more I keep reading about this kid, the more I wonder. Like, I'm so skeptical. I am so skeptical on what makes these young people do it. You think like a you think like a 40-year-old veteran that was in sniper school would be pissed off enough that he would do, and could accomplish something like that. And then here, some 22-year-old college kid is able to just pull off this amazing. When I say amazing, I don't mean in a good way. It's just like a spectacular, like, like one in a million. And it's just like, I'm not buying it. I'm sorry, I'm just not buying it. So let me take a break from that. Let's talk about what is it called? Um, I just read something about it. I want to say A1 Atlas. Is that what it's called? It's this spaceship thing that's coming across the galaxy. What's going on with that, man? And I just read this, like 3 colossal objects, each said to be 150 miles wide, has been detected by HARP, and they're flying in a triangular pattern, and they're headed for Earth. Do you think shit like that's true, or do you think that's just to gum up your brain? I mean, you know, I've 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 entertained these thoughts, and like, I don't think we should be foolish and think that we're the only ones. I don't think we're the only ones. So how would it happen? I don't know. And then to bring the religious part into it a little bit with God and Jesus Christ, like, I've heard people say that the coming of Christ is coming back. Jesus Christ he's coming back. Well, what's that going to look like? I mean, is he going to be riding a meteor? Is he just going to appear and kind of float down from the clouds? Like, how does that happen? What does that look like? And it's funny because, like, religious people that I know, when I ask that, they get uncomfortable. They don't want you to ask those questions. And I'm just curious. Like, what does it look like? The coming of Jesus, what does it look like? Is he in a metallic machine? Is he on a rock? Is he just floating in the sky? Is he riding an airplane? Or does he just appear? I mean, I don't know. The Amish have what do they call it? They call it Ascension Day. And that's where Jesus rose into the sky. I think that's what ascension is that, and then I don't know. One going up, one's going down. But they, like, I don't know what that looks like. Does it look like um, three triangle or three objects in a triangle formation coming across the galaxy? Is that what it looks like when Jesus returns? I don't know. I honestly don't know. And organized religion says I shouldn't be asking questions like that, which, just it's just what I do. I just ask questions. I don't know. I don't know what happens. I like to think that I'm faithful enough. I do believe in Jesus. I believe there's a God. I believe we have a power, but I don't think that's the ultimate. Um, I think there's things to be said before that. Um, and if you get on and do some research, there's all kinds of stuff like the Anunnaki. That's something that really, we've talked about, at least for my age, we've talked about the missing link and how humans kind of evolved and then they didn't. And then all of a sudden there's a part where we just took off and we really evolved way faster than anybody can imagine. But there's a part in there that's missing. And I don't want to say I think, but I guess one possibility would be the possibility of some kind of intervention. And I won't say aliens because I don't know, some kind of intervention. And it's like there's odd things that have happened that I paid attention to. One thing is in the Bible, a lot of the prominent figures lived to be like 5, 6, 7, 800 years old, like Noah and Moses. These guys lived to be like old. At least they were reported as old, not 100, like 5, 8 times 100. And then something happened, and our DNA and there's a technical term, so I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but the way I understood it is our DNA got capped off. And when it got capped off, now we only live to be about 100. Sure, there's people that don't make it to 100. Probably not going to myself. There's people that make it over 100. But generally, it's right at about 100 years. And to go from 100 years to, I think Noah was like 700 years old. It's a different language, but it all kind of comes down to that. And how did that happen? What took place that we went from living to be 6, 7, 800 years old to living to be 100? There was Enoch, and I think it was either Moses or Noah's grandfather lived to be like forever old, and then now we're just, I don't know, I don't know. I get really confused over stuff like this. When you try to follow religion, it takes you one direction. You don't ask questions. It's just how it is, and it doesn't. It's hard for me. It's really hard because I ask too many questions. In the church I belong to now, I ask questions and they don't like it, so I just quit asking. I'd go on my own search, try to free up my own things, and I've noticed that sometimes scripture's being read, and it'll be read, and then the person reading it will say, but that's not what they meant. This is what they meant. I'm going to tell you what they said, but I'll tell you what they meant. And that just confuses the shit out of me, because you might as well just save your breath and not read the scripture and just tell me what you think happened, because now I get confused on the interpretation part of it. And I'm talking about this because I think there's other people that do the same thing. And I think it's okay to do that. I think it's okay to question things. You know, I get by because on Judgment Day, when I stand in front of, and I'm just saying this like metaphorically or however you want to look at it, but on Judgment Day, when I'm standing in front of the pearl gates in St. Peter, he's going to look at me and he's going to say, I got you in my book right here, and I understand. So don't worry about the questions, because your questions are legitimate. I didn't blindly fall. Once again, I believe in Jesus. I believe in God. I believe things happen not by chance. Um, One thing that's really turned my view on stuff like that is near-death experiences. I've done a lot of research and a lot of reading, watched a lot of videos on near-death experiences. And I'm not going to lie, it's because of what I've been facing the last couple of years. It has me concerned. I'm not ready to go anywhere. So I start looking at stuff like that. Just get my chair up so I can get off my back a little bit. So I start looking at stuff like that, and you can go all over the world, and people that have had, I guess it's a near death experience, but people that have died and then came back, they tell a very similar story, and that intrigues me, because it either A, is really happening, or B, it's just a lot of coincidence going on. And I don't believe in coincidence. I write things off sometimes as coincidence, like I'm not sure, so I can explain it away a little bit. But there's things that you just can't explain it. If there were three people that had an experience, you could say, well, it could be. But when you're talking about thousands of people, and the experiences are so similar that it's undeniable, it really starts to make you think. And if you have any doubts, like I said, get on YouTube, look under near-death experiences, watch some of these people talk about what they claim they've been through. I say the word claim because I don't know. Maybe they're making stories up. Maybe they're good storytellers. There are people that are good storytellers. You know, Change gears for a second. Jim Brewer, comedian. He was in Half Baked, I think is the name of the movie. He's on Saturday Night Live. He's a comedian that looks like he's always high. And as he's gotten older, I've kind of gotten into watching his videos, and I realized that, like, he's a comedian for sure. He's a comedian. He doesn't make me belly laugh. He doesn't make me really laugh, but he makes me interested because he tells really good stories, and he's good at telling a story, and that keeps me interested. He's got a series of videos. I think the series is called "It's Funny How God Works," and he tells these beautiful stories about his dad that they're like an hour long, and my attention span, if it's not interesting, I'm gone. And I sat and watched the video, and then kind of sad when it was over, because I liked how he was telling the story and what he was talking about. And it got to the point where I don't even care if it's true. I believe it's true, but I don't even care if it is, because he tells the story so well. So my point on that is like there are people that, and they can tell a damn good story. They can tell you a story and just keep you invested in the story and intrigued in the story. And Jim Brewer, he's one of them. Um, what else can we talk about? Let's see. I'm just trying to flipping through my screen here to try and get some ideas of what we can talk about. Maybe change the subject. Well, there's something. Here's a. And Terry, if you're listening, I hope you are, buddy, because I know you like food like I do. And I went to the grocery store. Dan and I decided we were going to have BLTs for dinner the other night. So I was feeling pretty good. So I said, I'll go to the store. I'll do some grocery shopping. And she said, make sure we got a tomato, but make sure we got lettuce and we need some fresh bread and get some bacon so we can have BLTs. And I said, okay. So as I'm pulling into the grocery store, I look and they're on the sign where they have their specials at right out by the road. It said like Oscar Mayer bacon, which is a decent brand, I think, was like $3.50 a pound. And I pulled in and I'm like, it's kind of the irony. I need bacon, and that's a pretty damn good price for a pound of bacon, like $3.50. I guess I'm getting Oscar Mayer bacon today. And pulled in, I'm going to say this just because, well, I used my handicap plaque and I pulled into the front row and got out and I grabbed my little scuba tank and I headed into the store and I bought bread and I got around to where the meat was at and the bacon where the bacon was at, and every shelf that had $3.50 bacon was gone. Like it was gone. It must have went fast because it was gone. There were like 3 racks on the shelf, 3 places on the shelf where it was at, and the sign was there. And so I was like, no, okay, I'm not one to haggle over a couple bucks. Seriously, I'm not. So I started looking at the other bacon. And by the time I got done, some bacon was $12 a pound. 12 freaking dollars for a pound of bacon. And it ranged from like $3.50, $5.50, $7, all the way up to like $12 for a pound of bacon. So my question is, and I don't expect you, I know you're driving, buddy, so I don't expect you to answer this, but like, what the freak is the difference between $4, $3.50 a pound bacon and $12 bacon? Like, I know bacon's not bacon, but bacon's bacon. Like, how can there be such a price difference in bacon? I don't know. And it's like, that's not anything at all what I meant to talk about. I just seen this commercial on my feed here for bacon, and I thought, wow, that just brings up like this is what I dealt with the other day. Like, I still can't, I still can't get over that. If I had chat on this screen, I would look up what chat GPT says about what the difference is in the bacon because I sure as hell don't know. It's got to be pretty good bacon because $4 bacon was pretty good. That's what I ended up with was $4 or $5 pound bacon. It's pretty good. So maybe next time I'll splurge and get the $12 bacon because by God, it should be twice as good, right? I would think so. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see here. What else can we talk about? This guy complaining about losing his job because he was mother effing Charlie after he died, and people got tired of it, and so they fired him. His job fired him. Now he's literally crybabying on the screen about it. It's like these are the same people that say, there are actions. Your words have actions. Well, there you go. There you have it. There you have it. Just stuff that in your pie hole and do whatever you want with it. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I've been watching where there's people out there that are saying like Israel had shit to do with this, and I like to think that's not true, but I also I also know that he's been pretty critical over Israel lately. I'm reading something here real quick, so kind of bear with me. This is, I guess it's not new. It's new to me. I wonder if his dad turned him in over the $1 million, because the reward it started out as 100 grand, and then ended up being $1 million. So I wonder if his dad gets to collect that, or I wonder if the minister gets to collect it, because he's the one that like talked him into it, I guess. I don't know. I'm curious. But it's probably going to be like the freaking lottery where the government's involved with it and they don't ever pay anybody. I read something like that. I don't know if it's true. It sure makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense why, oh, the Powerball's 1.3 million or 1.3 billion with a B and nobody ever gets paid. And I also read Publishers Clearinghouse. Like, I don't know if you remember, they used to be like, we'll pay you $1,000 a week for the rest of your life. Well, they haven't been paying it because they don't have the money. So they went out of business. Wouldn't that suck if you banked your life on winning Ed McMahon, which Mandela Effect says it wasn't Ed McMahon, but you know. But yeah, I don't know. I've been going on here for Christ 80 minutes. So probably gonna call it a night. Appreciate everybody that was listening. Um, like I always try to say, subscribe if you're not. If you are, I love it. Thank you. And keep your eye out. Come back again. I'm sure I'll be doing it again. I get the urge, and sometimes that's all I think about during the day is coming in here and getting on a live stream because I like the interaction that happens. But anyway, 95sporty, I'm out. Thanks for being here.